Welcome to the AME television show. I'm your host, Jason Dowd, and we've got a very special show for you guys this week. Now, it's not your typical show that you're used to where we go out to all these different places and talk to people face to face. We're still doing it, but in a little bit different format. What we're doing is we're doing the interviews through Skype, so now we're able to remotely talk to people from all around the world, which opens up a huge door for me because now I can bring you art from all over the world. Passionate, expertise, and different forms of art that I know you guys are going to love. So this is giving me a whole nother avenue for me to bring some great stuff to you. And the first two interviews went great. Our first interview is with Susan Edelman of Be Your Own Brand of Sexy. Now this book is helping the dating culture and, helping you understand not to body shame yourself, love who you are, and help you understand the world that's around you. And I think it's a book that would be very suitable for anybody that's the age of maybe 17 and up. And I think it's something that maybe parents could actually talk to their children with as well, because we are in a dating culture where, unfortunately, people just decide, hey, you know what, let me just go sleep with this person with casual sex and make everything good. I'll be popular, he'll like me, everything's a win-win situation. But as you know, that doesn't always work. So what we're also going to be talking to her about is something I'm very passionate about, which is body shaming. And the reason why I say this is because as a photographer, I have seen so many women just pick on themselves all the way across. Well, this is terrible. This doesn't look good. I have too many wrinkles, or I have a spot on my face. And they freak out about it. And they don't think they're beautiful because of those small little flaws. But what they don't realize is that they are comparing themselves to magazine covers where you see these beautiful women out there. They look like they have the most perfect skin. But come to find out, if you saw that person out on the street without their makeup, 99.9% of you would not even recognize them. And that's because that brand of beauty is actually put into a computer, digitally enhanced to the nines, airbrushed, and then sent out for you to see. So unless you can sit there and make yourself digital, put yourself into a computer, go through your form of Photoshop or whatever it may be, and shoot yourself back out, that level of beauty will never be accomplished. And there's no amount of plastic surgery that can do that for you. So we're going to help you understand what I'm going through, what I've experienced as a photographer with models, and we're going to discuss her book and how she came up with it. This is going to be a great interview, so don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back after this, talking with Susan Edelman. And this time we are talking to a very special lady. She's very smart, and she actually believes a lot of the stuff that I've been preaching about for a long time. Her name is Dr. Susan Edelman. And she is the author of a book called Be Your Own Brand of Sexy, A New Sexual Revolution for Women. And today we're going to be talking about body shaming, which is, I hope, something that people will realize that this is a serious problem going on in our country right now, especially how we portray human bodies, not mostly women. It's not even so much the men as it is the women, and I think it can really harm a generation. So welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, this is a lot of fun. It's hard to get a straight answer from a guy's perspective, because when I talk to guys, like, oh, you got to make them as sexy as possible, and they're a lot more critical about how a woman's body is. But people forget that there's two versions of beautiful. There's the inside and there's the outside. But sometimes we take the outside and shame it to the point where we lose what real beauty is. And I have always, like I was telling you before the interview here, we were talking about, I do photography, and I see a lot of women, and they're like, well, I can't do this until I lose like 5 or 6 pounds. Or, I need to have this done to myself before I can start to be a part of this project, because I don't feel like I'm hot enough. I don't look like a model on a magazine. But then I go and tell them, well, look, there's a problem with that. Those people are digitally enhanced. You're never going to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish unless you can physically get yourself stuck in a computer and enhance yourself that way. So why are we doing this to ourselves? Why are we putting such a negative portrayal of beauty that's unobtainable?
That's such a great and important question. And I think it's a few different things. I think when you begin to see everywhere how other people look, whether it's magazine covers or television or movies, you get this image, and a lot of us tend to think, well, that's the way it should be. That, there must be something wrong with me if I don't look like that. We don't think this is made by television producers, or, these companies want to sell me beauty products, so they want me to look want to not be thrilled with how I look. But I think that the other piece of it is it's so illustrated by this great story. This psychiatrist and anthropologist went to Fiji in the 80s to do anthropology research, and there they were into eating, and they had heavier bodies, and it was a compliment if someone said to you, hey, you gained some weight. It wasn't like here. And then she went back in the 90s to do a study on the effects of television, because in 95 they had almost no TVs and no eating disorders. So within 3 years they had television, 11% of the girls were purging. And then in 2007, 45% of girls were purging, and 25% of them had suicidal thoughts. So, it's a different culture than ours. It's poorer, it's more agrarian, and they don't have the mental health treatment. But my goodness, that's a very short period of time to completely change a culture. We've been living in this kind of culture for a lot longer, so we've completely bought into it, a lot of us.
Yeah, we have. And, when I was shooting with some of the models, they were like, maybe 110 pounds wet. And they're like, oh, I'm so fat, I got to lose weight. I'm like, if you lose any weight, I could blow you over. I do realize that there is a certain norm when you're doing like fashion models and stuff like that. They're grotesquely underweight, and I think that's because that they need to be able to fit the clothes onto them. But what about if they went to go get a job? If let's just say your daughter wanted to go become a model, and they said, okay, well, you got to lose 10 to 15 pounds before we'll even consider you, and knowing that she's already that light, what would you say to her? Because I think that is not only affecting their health, but it also affects their state of mind as well.
I think confidence is so important to this whole picture, because almost 60% of women are unhappy with how we look now. So that is not empowerment for women. And you can't be completely confident on a date or in a work situation or anywhere if all you're focused on is my thighs are too fat, I need to lose weight, these things are sagging in the wrong way or whatever. If how do you have sex and feel comfortable if you're not okay being naked? I mean, these things really affect us in some profound ways. So being able to feel good about how you look, or at least accept how you look. And I think you're so right about inner beauty being a huge part of this. It's like we don't care about inner beauty. We only care how we look on the outside.
And I think you said something very interesting about the models on the magazines. You said that it's really kind of about selling products, and that is really what it comes down to. They want to sell a product, and if their product doesn't make them look like they're, plastic, it's not going to sell. And money is a real deterrent for something like this, I'm sure. And I saw something about, I want to say it's about 6 years now, believe it or not, with Twiggy. And she did this oil of Olay treatment that she was promoting in a magazine, and she looked like she was no more than like in her early 40s. Now everybody knows Twiggy's almost in her 70s. So to sit there and take 30 years off of your age, it really puts up a red flag. And even Britain said, look, we're banning this ad because it's so malicious and defraudulent in the situation. Twiggy's from England. So what do we need to tell our kids about these particular products and about these particular ads to make them realize that they're fine just the way they are? I mean, if they want to put on some stuff and make themselves feel a little bit better just by using it, it's fine. But how do we get them to not make an obsession over this type of thing?
I think the tough part with the kids is the peer pressure. So I think what you want to be doing with your kids is encouraging them to talk about the kind of pressures that they're under and help them love themselves for who they are. So accepting your kids and I is a big part of it, because if you think about it, Jason, a lot of these mothers are modeling this kind of self-critical stuff for their kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're saying, oh, I need to lose weight. And those girls are listening to it. Girls are now on diets who are like 10 years old.
I know.
So probably their mothers are a part of that. So the more, if the mothers will start to think about it differently, it will be easier for them to teach their children to be different as well.
Now, you've seen a lot of these shows on television, maybe like Toddlers and Tiaras and all these type of shows. They really do up these girls that are like not even 7 years old yet. And they have them airbrushed and makeup to the nines. I mean, how much flaws could they have on their body at that age that would require something like that? I mean, I don't even see sometimes the adults going through that type of, process. What type of message are we sending if we support these type of shows?
Unfortunately, I think that the message is clear. You're supposed to reach some unattainable status of perfection that doesn't exist. And the younger it goes, unfortunately, the more it becomes the norm, because if you're 7 and you're exposed to that kind of thing, then when you're 27, you're going to think that's perfectly normal. Unless someone's telling you, I don't think that's a good role model for you. I don't think this is the way I want you to be. I want you to enjoy being a child and not feel like you've got to have the pressure to look good all the time. It's exhausting.
And I know that I've been watching women for a long time. Everybody in my family is pretty much a female, and I have a lot of female friends. And I realize that as they get older, they seem to attack their bodies more. And I don't know, I've heard the old saying, like, men get better with age, women go backwards, which I don't believe in any stretch of the means. Why have we gotten to this type of situation, and what can women do if they don't feel sexy enough without going through the barbaric processes of going through some serious surgery that could possibly deform them for life?
Well, I'm a big proponent of women joining into a sisterhood where we realize we're all in this together, and we begin to redefine what beautiful and sexy are. So, to focus on our inner beauty, to complain to some of these companies, to try and get more women in media, to portray more realistic and attainable images for women in movies. If we had more female role models who looked more like every other woman looks, instead of like these, size 0 movie stars, maybe we could begin to accept ourselves more. But I think unless we start to see this as a major problem that we need to address, it's very hard to change it. But because unless women are going to stick together in this, and we're so polarized in our country over so many issues that, I think we really want to see this as a women's issue and not a political issue, that, this is important for women's empowerment. This is not empowering for women to feel so critical of yourself and have it get worse as you get older, because then you've got some wrinkles.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really big problem. I mean, it can cause serious eating disorders, it can cause depression, it can even cause suicide in some cases, depending on how badly people pick on somebody. And I have seen quite a huge change in that, because I've been seeing more like Sports Illustrated put on a plus-size model. You've been seeing a lot more plus-size models coming out in the Sunday Flyers and stuff like that. So it's like they're accepting more body types, which is important. If somebody happens to be in this type of situation where they just don't love themselves for whatever reason it may be, and maybe they're glorifying sex to make this as a reason, if you're not having sex enough, you're not beautiful enough or whatever like that. What can we do? How can they identify the problem and help change that?
Well, I think you bring up an important point. There's also pressure to be sexual. It's not just pressure to be sexy,
right,
but it's also pressure to be sexual in our culture. And so we've kind of convoluted the two things in a way, because really empowerment for women is not how sexual you are. It's being treated well by a man. And empowerment for women is not looking good on the outside. It's about feeling good about yourself. So these are not empowering messages at all. And I think the more we realize that empowerment is important to our inner lives and to all women in this way, the more we can try and break free of all this.
And as a guy myself, I mean, I don't necessarily always look at what the external beauty is. I kind of look at sometimes how women hold themselves. And, you know, you see the ones that are just like, you see them on the housewives shows and stuff like that. To me, those are ugly, ugly people because they have a self-worth about themselves that is above and beyond everybody else. They put everybody below them. They're kind of like me, myself, and I. And I think guys are looking for women that are more open, that, you know, are able to make decisions for themselves and like making decisions for themselves without saying, no, this is the way it's going to be all the time, and I'm just going to go out on heavy spending, you know, sprees on stuff like that. And, you know, they carry themselves better. So what type of attitudes should women have about themselves so they don't make themselves look like, you know, something like off of the Housewives of New Jersey or something like that?
Well, you know, I think some women want to do it to get a man, right? They think that men like that, and some men do like that.
Yeah.
It's true. So, but, you know, if that's the only thing that's important about you in terms of getting a man, you probably want a better fit than that to really have a good relationship with somebody. And having someone appreciate you for your inner beauty is huge in terms of having a relationship really work in a long-term way. So I think that's one element. I think the other element is women competing with each other. And so I think we're driving a lot of this ourselves by, you know, attacking celebrities like Lady Gaga or whoever. You know, we're driving this. We're badgering our sisters to conform to things that are never going to be healthy for any of us. But I think that we don't realize that we're doing it even. It just seems so normal at this point. So the more awareness that we can bring to people, so thank goodness you're a man interested in doing this, because I think there probably are a lot of men who also agree with this, and but women don't necessarily know that, right? They think men all want them to be looking beautiful all the time.
Let's take a fantasy situation here. Let's just say I'm a single father and I got a daughter. And guys sometimes are a little bit intimidated with daughters, and I don't know why, but they are. Maybe it's because they don't know how they grow and develop as they do with themselves, because we're used to that. So that's why we rely on the female mostly. But if I had a daughter and I wanted to try to keep her feeling good about herself and knowing what she should be expecting from a man as she gets older, what are some of the things that I could do to help her realize how important she is to the world, how important her looks are and not looks are, and, you know, to herself, but also be true to herself and look for a type of guy that I would want her to have when she gets older?
I think that's a great question. And I think that sometimes we think we need to make our children or friends feel better with compliments about looks. And sometimes we end up drawing too much attention to looks when we do that, right? So, you know, I think that when you're complimenting someone and wanting, especially a child, wanting them to feel good about themselves, maybe the more you are complimenting them for something like an inner beauty thing, like that's really sweet of you, and, you know, you're such a kind person, and the kind of things that, you know, they can definitely appreciate themselves no matter how they end up looking. And I think that sometimes we're focused a little too much on the looks because of the way our culture is. And that, I think, can help people a lot. They're also finding, the research is, you know, that if you're telling your child they're really smart and that kind of thing, then you're not necessarily focusing on how hard they work. And, you know, those are the kind of things that you can give a child credit for. You're a hard worker. You know, you're doing a good job here.
So it's important for me to try to set a good example for her as me, how I'd want to portray myself and how I would treat women.
Yeah, and the things to be careful about, the kind of things you're complimenting her on. and to make sure you're giving her lots of feedback for the things you want her to value in herself. And I think the other way people get into trouble is women are people pleasers. We're raised that way to try and please other people. And so a lot of times as parents, we like that. We want our kids to maybe please us, but sometimes trying to help a child figure out what's right for them as an individual can go a huge way to figuring all this stuff out, right? Because in a way, what we're all trying to do is please our culture, because our culture is basically saying to us, well, you're no good the way you are. You're not lovable the way you are. So the more we can teach someone not to just please everybody else, but to really tune into what's right for them as individuals, the easier it's going to be for them to have the kind of core inner strength to be able to go, how I look is not the most important thing. I don't have to please everybody. I'm never going to please everybody, right?
Right. So let's do a few minutes of your book before we go here. What made you decide to write this book, Be Your Own Brand of Sexy?
Well, Jason, I have a really dear friend, and one of her daughters went off to college and called me for dating advice, and she's like, Susan, the guys are asking me to come over and hang out. What does that mean? And I wasn't exactly sure, but it didn't exactly sound like a date to dinner and a movie. And as it turned out, a lot of these guys just wanted to hook up. I mean, that's really what was going on. And it was very disappointing for her, and also for me, because I thought college dating was so great and she was missing out. And this wasn't what we had in mind with the women's movement and the sexual revolution. We dreamed women would be treated better when we were seen as equals, not that guys were going to take casual sex for granted. So I felt so sad for her, and I felt kind of guilty, like my generation had kind of created this mess. And so when she said, Susan, you have to do something about this, I thought, well, maybe I can do that. I'm a psychiatrist and a single person, I know a lot about this, so that's why I decided to write this book. And I had seen so many women in my practice struggling, being taken for granted by men as well. So I thought this is really an important book to write.
It is, and actually I've been kind of breezing through it here a little bit to kind of get an idea, because I just got it on Wednesday, so I haven't had a lot of chance to really read it yet, but it seems like you got a lot of great information out there. And what do you hope that women will take from this book after reading it?
Well, I hope that women will be able to see just how much they don't need to buy into all this, and to empower them to trust their own instincts and to develop their own intuition about what's right for them as individuals, and have the courage to stand up for that. And whether it's saying to a guy, well, I'm not into casual sex, or saying to themselves, I don't need to buy into this thing about body size, or saying to someone in the media, hey, these are not the images I want to see in the movies. I think this could be very empowering for women.
And what age group should people start giving this book to their kids? What age would you say would be appropriate to start talking to them about the stuff in your book?
Well, I think college-age girls for sure, and up. I've had people in their 70s tell me they really love this book, so I think it goes for women of all ages. And I think it probably depends on the teenager. If you're in high school, some of them probably it would work, but parents might want to, read it to make sure they think it's right for their child. And also, I think this is a really important book for mothers, because I think a lot of mothers are sheltered from what's going on out there, and they don't necessarily know what their daughters are about to face when they are in high school or college.
Yeah, I know. I remember when I was in school, it was quite different. I mean, everybody seemed like they were hooking up with everybody, and it was a big problem, and I wasn't like that, unfortunately, so I got kind of pushed to the side a lot. But there is a lot of peer pressure out there, and it can be a real tough world out there for both men and women. And we tend to, back in the 80s and 90s when we were in high school, it really wasn't that bad. But when you start to get into nowadays, it's like they're starting to put preschools and stuff into high school, so the women can go to the girls there can go to school, and it's like, this is crazy. I can't believe this is happening. And it's a sad situation, but I think that it can be changed if we bring people to realize that they have more self-worth, and they don't need to sleep with somebody just to have some popularity.
I'm so glad you're bringing that up about the hookup culture, because I'm really, really concerned about that. I think that we want to be making choices. We don't want to go from, the old days where if you have sex before marriage, you're a tramp, to now if you're a virgin, you're a prude. We want to have liberation where people are choosing for themselves, and we want it to be everybody that has a choice. We don't want it to be that if you don't want to hook up, you don't have anybody to hook up. There's nobody to date.
Right. And that's very important. I think we all need to look at that a little bit more, especially if we have kids in school. We need to help them realize that they are better than what they can just put out with. It's what they can give to the community. It's what they can give to their friends and stuff like that that really makes them worth more than anything else. So we are just about out of time. How can everybody get your book, and how can they find out more about you if they have questions?
So if they want to take my quiz to find out if they're being their own brand of sexy and doing what's right for them as individuals, they can go to my website, beyourownbrandofsexy.com, or I'm also posting regularly on Facebook. I've got a blog every week, so I have all kinds of new information for people.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on here, sharing your book with us, and talking to us about the situation that I think we need to address more as a country and as a culture, and maybe change it for the better in the future.
Thank you so much for having me, Jason, and for all your efforts to change this. I think it's wonderful.
Well, thank you.
The AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Our next guest is Angela Shelton. You guys are going to love her. She is so full of energy, she's so passionate, and she's a lot of fun. Now, what she is the producer and director of a brand new movie called Heart Baby. Let me take you through a little bit of the story without getting into too much of it before we talk to her. Basically, a young man got arrested for breaking into a house in 1978, got 40 years for doing it. Not armed robbery, didn't hurt anybody, just broke into the house. He goes to jail, becomes a world-class boxer that nobody can defeat. We're going to tell his story through this movie, and you're going to see that there's a lot of twists and turns in it, because there was a possibility he might actually become free just by doing a couple little things. Does he take it? I don't know. We're going to find out. So let's go talk to Angela Shelton about her movie, where you can see it, and there's premieres going all over this weekend. She's going to tell you where they are. So we'll be right back with Angela Shelton. Welcome to the show, everybody. I have on the line with me a very special guest. Her name is Angela Shelton. She is the director and the boss of the movie Heart Baby, which is a really interesting topic here that I've been reading about. Give us a little bit of insight about the movie.
Oh gosh, okay. Heart Baby is a true story about a young black man named George Lee Martin, who at the age of 18 got a 40-year sentence for robbing a house. And while he was inside, he became a boxer, go figure, and he was undefeated and nobody could knock him out. And with the help of his corner man and best friend, the white singer-songwriter guy named Doc, so Doc and George are best friends, with the help of him, literally, George was undefeated, and his word started to spread outside of the prison system to the free world, and all these coaches started hearing about him and sending in champs, including John Tate. If you're a boxing fan, you find out in this movie what ruined John Tate's career that nobody knew about. And the Olympics have been watching George and offered him freedom in order to fight and win the gold for the U.S. in the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles. And he said, no, I ain't going. And the movie is about why he he chose to stay in prison instead of going to be free and win the gold for the U.S. And it's stunningly beautiful, and I love it so much. And all I can say is Heart, baby.
So, where did you find out about him? How did you learn about his story?
I actually am very good friends with Doc, his white best friend, who served a 27-year sentence. And he was on the speaking circuit speaking about prison reform. And I was on the speaking circuit. Basically, my speech that I still do is stop raping kids. Go yourself. It's really simple. I make it kind of funny and palatable. And so I was on the speaking circuit, and he was on as well with his wife talking about prison reform, and we became really good friends. And we were up drinking one night talking about prison stories, because when you're hanging out with Andy, you get prison stories nonstop. And I was like, tell me another one, Andy. And he tells me this one about George, and I literally could not stop crying. And it's about his best friend, George, who passed away, so he thought. And he lost touch with them, and then they were best friends. He told me this whole story about he turned down the Olympics, and I literally could not stop crying. And I was like, Andy, that is a movie. That is a movie. And he goes, it is, Angie. It would be a great movie, but only you could do it. And I was like, really? Seriously? Sign here. I'll do it. Because I will. And he's like, I know you will. That's why I said you do it. I know you would. So we started making the movie. We are in pre-production, right? Trying to find George's death certificate for my E&O insurance policy. Can't find his death certificate. Hired a PR, a private eye, and found him.
Wow.
And so George thought Andy was dead. Andy thought George was dead. And so they're reunited at the end of the movie. And just in time so that I could put them both in the movie. It is, and you find out at the end, you see there, like you find out the big reunion at the end of the movie, and you literally, if there's a dry eye at the end of this movie, you are dead inside.
So did Doc help you write this movie along with it? I mean, how did you guys come up with the concept for the movie itself?
I am a writer, so no. I mean, I just sit and listen to all his stories, and I created this whole story because I mean it took place in like 13 prisons, so I had to condense it to 3 prisons over the period of 8 years, and so that's my craft and my expertise. What I utilized him for is to make sure, and that's why we have the hashtag convict approved. Mm-hmm. I wanted to make sure that every single thing, from the uniforms to every fight, the chow hall, every single thing was convict approved. And so he was very much involved in checking the script, and also he was on set the whole time, checking literally everything of how the shanks were made and everything. So that movie is convict approved, because they said that when they get to see TV and movies inside, mm-hmm. and they'll always be like, oh my God, it's such a bunch of bullshit. You know what I mean? Yeah. It doesn't happen that way. That's crap. It doesn't happen that way. And so this one is literally, it happens this way. We made one mistake that we all caught, and we're like, oh. But it's like the audience will never pick up on it ever. It'll just be convicts who see it. We're like, actually, they would not have had their billy club in that scene. And we're like, oh. You know what I mean? But it's like, it's just, I'm so detail oriented. So little teeny details like that, I want to make sure that it's all taken care of. So we made one mistake. Who cares? It's fine.
Yeah, and if nobody's really going to realize it's not going to be that, it's not going to epically change the movie or anything like that.
No. There's like literally, she has her billy club in the ring and she wouldn't have had it. That's it.
But what's really amazing is that he got 40 years for robbing a house. I mean, what did he take from there? I mean, I've seen people that have robbed millions of dollars not go to jail that long. I mean, was it just because he was black? Is that pretty much what it comes down to, the civil rights back in that time of year?
Oh, it was 1978. I think it was technically the bitch. It's called the 3 strikes you're out. Was still existed way back then. It was called the bitch, and he robbed he was accused, and he was very young, of robbing a purse, which he did not do. The second time he robbed a bike, which he did do. He stole a bike, so he was on the record. And so then when he robbed this house, not armed, by the way, when he robbed this house, he was technically 3rd strike, black man, 1978, you're out of here.
I gotcha.
But then there's a whole other discussion here about private prisons, how it's actually a moneymaker, how actually, that's I hope that people go and they talk about this at dinner afterwards, that doesn't really make sense. And it's like, and then there's another cellmate of his that got 50 years for possession of narcotics.
Wow.
What? You know what I mean? And then the real criminals, like a child molester who raped 27 kids in the movie, got 4 years.
Uh-huh.
Four.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
It really is disgusting. I mean, our criminal system is completely jacked up. I mean, I don't trust our system anymore, unfortunately. You know, I've seen terrible things happen to me, and they walk. You know, I've had my artwork stolen, even though I could prove it. They gave it to the person that stole my artwork, and I lost rights to my own photo. I mean, I don't trust the judicial system. I don't trust anything anymore, and that's a real sad thing that we're in a time where this is happening. But maybe
I actually have to say, along that line, I'm friends with some convicts. It's actually not PC to call them that. The PC term is returning citizens. So I'm friends with a lot of them, and I trust them more than people on the outside.
I believe that.
Like they're more. That's heart. Like every time George fought, he would go heart baby, and all the prisoners would go heart baby, and it's like literally you're a man of your word. You honor your brotherhood. I mean, like this movie is totally about brotherhood and friendships and what you would do for each other. And I trust them with my life. I honestly do. And then you meet people and like you go on Hollywood meetings and you're like, oh my God, it's a bunch of criminals.
Yeah, that's right.
they should be in jail.
So, when he actually boxed, did they build a ring for these guys to box inside the jail, or was it just like right on the concrete in the middle of the cafeteria, just go at it?
It was totally set up, and the warden made a lot of money.
Oh, I'm sure.
So, because you would bet on them, you know, and so they would bring in champions to fight George, and there was always Friday night fights, so there was a whole ring. I mean, it was the real deal. There was the dressing rooms. There was, you know, it was the real deal. And with George, you just made a ton of money on him.
Sure. That was like almost a Muhammad Ali at your disposal, you know? I mean...
Yeah. Yeah, and his best friend, Doc, was also the bank. So he was like, you'd take bets and you'd bet on, you know, Doc made George a lot of money and made himself a lot of money because he, like, basically was George's, you know, manager. Well, and it's when George turns down the Olympics, Doc literally had this crisis of faith because Doc is a devout Catholic, which I find so interesting in prison. Like it's a Christian movie. I hate to tell you. Oops, sorry. And the audience they're really loving it, and they coined the phrase, "This is Christian realism," because it's violent. It takes place in prison. There's definitely like every other word is a curse word. I mean, you're in prison. What am I going to be like? Oh, you knuckle. Ed.
Yeah.
No, it's like be yourselves, guys, and you know. So it's pretty violent. It's got a lot of cursing, but it's all for a reason. It's not gratuitous. It's not just violent to be violent. There's definitely a reason for it. And going back to how I wrote the screenplay, like my idea of this story was a 1,000-page novel, so that like the fabric of this prison is really the fabric of our world that we live in. All aspects from love, hate, desire, fear, doubt, and worry, and joy and bliss, all within this fabric of these four walls that you literally, as the movie proceeds, you forget you're in prison. Because it's beautiful. I want it to be the most beautiful prison movie you've ever seen, because when you have brotherhood and friendship and love, it is beautiful. Mm-hmm. And so it's really, I mean, I'm very proud of the fact that it's really a pretty, pretty movie. And you're like, why is it so pretty? I'm like, because usually prison movies are cold and blue and stark.
Yeah.
And
like
this is way back in the 80s where they were able to have TVs and fans and coffee makers and all kinds of stuff in their cells that was like little apartments. So I took advantage of that, like as far as the color theme went. It's all colorful, and I don't know, I just love this movie on so many levels.
Did you get to actually tour a prison to kind of get an idea of what it was like or anything like that, or did you just hear from other people?
Not only that, we shot in 3 prisons. 1 was working prison, and 2 had just been shut down in September, and we shot in January. So it was freshly cleaned, not clean at all. And so we were in prison, and that was pretty rough. Like all of us got sick. It was very, very depressing, and it was like, talk about as an actor, because I am definitely an actor's director, because I'm an actor myself, and I was like, all right, get in there. I'm gonna lock your ass in there.
Let's have some fun with it. Make it real.
Let you sit in there for a while. And it was intense. I think the actors really actually appreciated the fact that we were in the real deal. We were not on a stage.
Yeah. Oh, that definitely brings a realism to it, so they can get more into the role and they can feel what these people are going through, even if they didn't technically have ever been in jail. This will give them a new insight into that, and that makes it real. That's what's important with movies.
It's very real. And this movie is one of those, like, if you've traveled outside of Los Angeles or New York, you'll understand it.
Sure.
Because I've noticed, like, people who literally don't know America and haven't been outside of America, I'm like, hello, there's a whole world between LA and New York.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, because from the bikers to the killers to all these, like, all the Nazis in there that are actually called the Aryan Nation, like, you can understand them. You're like, that's my uncle, that's my Coach Billy Bob or whatever. You recognize people.
Sure.
Whereas, like, I've noticed, like, some people in the cities are like, wow, that was like, there's really people like that. I'm like, go on a road trip.
That's right. So, where's your movie actually coming out? Where's your movie actually airing in the next couple of days? I know it's actually airing this week here at the couple of premieres. Where's it premiering at?
Newport Beach Festival, Friday night. In California, Newport Beach, California, at 5:45. It's sold out. Sorry.
That's pretty cool.
And then Saturday morning, I jump on a red eye and I go to Iowa right after our screening in Newport, and then I go to Iowa for the Saturday morning at 11:45, I think it is, in Dubuque. And then it plays on Sunday morning at 9:30, which I think is awesome because it totally is go to church. Like, come to church, skip church, and go to see this movie because it is going to church. Oh, I said it out loud.
Now, what type of distribution do you have set up? Or you have anything set up? Is it going to be on video on demand? Is it going to be on, like, Roku? Is it going to be on Netflix? Do you have any DVD plans?
I have a distributor. They're called North of Two. It's a smaller distributor company. He was with Paramount for 14 years and started his own company. Marc Cartier, love him. And I met him. I met all these distributors, and I met him, and he just totally got it. Because he's like, we take it on the road. It's like prisons and churches. We're doing a whole, like, little event tour that's leading into a theatrical release that'll happen. It looks like late October, early November.
Interesting. Well, that's really cool because, I mean, sometimes I see a lot of people, they do these great movies, but they have no other way of seeing it unless you go to the premieres and stuff or the film festivals. And I'm like, well, that's kind of limiting yourself. So I'm glad you're able to work that out so more people will be able to get it later on.
Oh, we're going to literally come to you. Because the thing, it's kind of like, I don't know if you remember my documentary years ago, like this movie creates a community. So it's like that's why we discuss, like, community events. That's why I like my brain and his brain from a distributor side. I was like, we totally get each other of, like, bring the movie to the people. And it's not just a movie. This is literally a discussion. It's going to church. It's talking about prison reform. It's talking about transgender. Because what does that even mean? Because, like, in the 1980s, they had a hard time getting their head wrapped around being gay openly, not let alone transgender. And there are transgender, specifically one that's on the poster. Her name's Crystal. She was a transgender cellmate she came from a very, very, very rich family that literally erased her. And they put her in prison, her and a cousin. So it's literally like, hello, it's in your genes, people. Her and her cousin were put away for life in prison with trumped up charges in order to get rid of them. Just like way back in the 1800s, if you're talking back to your husband, he puts you in a loony bin, gives you a lobotomy. Same difference. You know what I mean? They're like, I can't wrap my head around what this person is. Her name was Timothy, and she acquired the name Crystal, and she got life in prison simply because her parents were crazy rich and connected and literally just wrote a check.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. So it's like that. So we're doing a whole series of events where we honor transgender people, and like, we see you, because not only was she not seen, she was actually erased. They created a fake name for her in prison that I looked up, and I had the prison number and everything, and then we started making the movie, and you go back to the site, and it's not there anymore.
Wow.
You know what I mean? You're like, cuckoo. Like, it's just one of those, like, oh my God. Seriously?
Is she still in jail?
She died.
She died.
Sadly.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God, so funny. I'm holding my little, that's so funny. I'm holding my little thumb drive, and it says transcend. How great is that?
That's pretty cool.
That's what this movie does. It like transcends those. Oh, I hope that's what it does for the people who've seen it so far. It transcends to new discussions, and let's talk about it. And let's talk about brotherhood. Like, straight men are by far the biggest fans of this movie, and they've said, and they're like they had a hard time wrapping their head around that I made it. Like, this skinny, funny white girl from North Carolina, told 250 men what to do. And once they see it, and once you know me, you're like, oh, of course she made that movie. Of course she made that movie. And it's just like Andy, who's Doc, he's like, only you can do it. Because I can see why he said that. Because I kept the heart in it, But the men love it because it's about brotherhood.
Right.
And they said that we don't get brotherhood movies unless it's a war movie or it's a comedy. And here we have this, like, real brother. Like, the movie really is, like, what would you do for your best friend for real?
Sure.
Like, what would you sacrifice for them, and what would you do for them? And really, do you really love? And all these men, like, a total brotherhood, because women have a different sisterhood than brothers.
Right.
Men have this, like, freaking, like, brotherhood that is fascinating to me, and I just love it. I want to write about it, and I do consistently. But I'm like, wow, like, sisters, like, they'll cut you. It's so true. I'm speaking the truth. But brothers, like, man, there's something powerful about real brotherhood. And that's what this movie is, truly.
Well, we got about 2 minutes left, so tell everybody how they can find out more about the movie. Maybe there's a website or something they can find out more about you as well.
Yes, there's heartbabythemovie.com is all the information. There's videos, there's screening dates and everything. And then if you want to fall down the rabbit hole, you can go to angelashelton.com, but good luck with that. But definitely sign up for our emails on heartbabythemovie.com because I personally send out updates to let you know what's going on. It's not a machine, it's literally me. So sometimes I spell things wrong, blah, blah, whatever. She'll cut you.
Well, Angela, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful story and wonderful interview with you, and I cannot wait to see this movie when it does come out, so I could see it.
Yeah, come to Dubuque.
Maybe I can.
Where are you?
I'm in Tampa.
I will bring it to your backyard.
Awesome.
How about that?
That would be awesome. Well, thank you once again, and I wish you all the best, and hopefully these the premieres go wonderful for you.
Thank you. You too. Start doing more artwork.
I will.
Awesome.
All right, guys, we will be right back after this. All right, we are set.
Limo Bob builds, sells, and rents the world's finest, longest, and most exotic limousines in the world. We provide every imaginable vehicle from a 4-passenger town car to a 10-passenger Bentley Rolls and a Hummer for $20. We even have a one-of-a-kind 727 jet limo. And we offer a complete consulting package where Limo Bob comes to your location and shares 3 decades of experience in 3 days with you. Call 708-945-LIMO and visit limobob.com.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. It is time to say goodbye. It's the end already. But before we go, check out our website, www.theamemagazine.com. You can check it out 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And we don't have any subscriptions, so if you want to see any of our adventures, any of our interviews that we've done on this television show, go check it out. You can see our radio show, too. We have been blowing up with some amazing guests. We had Matthew Lawrence, we've had Jewel, we've had some great people coming on recently. And if you happen to miss it, that's okay. We have them archived up there. Just go check out their guest page. And also, if you're on Facebook, follow us there, too. It's facebook.com/The AME Experience, and Twitter, which is @Dowd Studios. I hope you enjoyed our guests, Angela Shelton and Susan Edelman. They were great guests. I hope you learned a lot. Check out their movie, check out her book, and explore the world around you. That's what we're here for. And if you notice, the show went a little bit longer than normal, and that's okay, because this is probably going to be one of the formats we're going to do as we're able to bring in more and more interviews and have them for a longer period. So let me know what you think. All you have to do is go to Twitter, @Dowd Studios. Let me know what you think. I want to see it. And if you haven't noticed already, our Twitter has been our form of news. So if you want to see what's going on in the art, music, and entertainment industry, my own art studio, and on the AME experience, go check it out. Follow us there at Twitter. All right, guys, that's all we have for you. Keep those creative juices flowing. We'll see you next time on some more great adventures with more great guests, too. Have a great night.
Like, OMG, you were on TV and junk.